think part of what's so heartbreaking is knowing the potential he had.
It's being reported that the man accused of shooting a healthcare insurance CEO in the back in the middle of Midtown Manhattan had said, quote, "It had to be done." His apparent writings have been released, and it is giving us some insight into Luigi Mangione's possible motive for this targeted attack as he appears in court for the first time. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione might be one of the most famous people in the world right now, and we didn't even know who he was last week. He was arrested this week in Altoona, Pennsylvania at a McDonald's, of all places. Apparently, an employee called police, alerting them to the suspect in the restaurant, although there has been mixed reporting on this. Some say an employee overheard customers talking. Others say it was reported directly to an employee. But either way, he was noticed in that McDonald's. And a man spoke with reporters Tuesday saying he was one of the people joking about whether it could be the shooter inside the location because, after all, talking about this, he looked eerily similar to surveillance photos that were released by the NYPD after the shooting death of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And when police responded to that McDonald's, they ended up arresting Mangione on several charges unrelated to the shooting, by the way, because apparently he had a ghost gun in his possession as well as a fake ID. He appeared in court for the first time on Tuesday where he was denied bail, and we'll get a little bit more into that in a moment. But I want to talk about this reported handwritten note, or manifesto as it's being labeled. You see, Brian Thompson was killed 1 week ago on December 4th at around 6:45 a.m. as he walked to the Hilton Hotel for an investors conference. And surveillance footage shows this masked and hooded man lying in wait for Thompson and then approaching from behind and firing multiple shots. And ever since news about the shooting started to come out, there has been speculation that it might have something to do with health insurance coverage or health insurance costs or denials. Now, police say Thompson was targeted, and not long after that, his wife apparently told NBC News that she knew he had gotten some threats, but really there were not more details about that. And security experts have said, look, it's not uncommon for CEOs at major healthcare companies to get threats. It's a separate question of why he didn't have security with him, and we've been trying to figure that out. And especially since at the scene, and this was really bizarre, authorities recovered bullet casings with the words deny, defend, and depose on them. Words that are eerily similar to the 2010 book Delay, Deny, Defend, Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It. And this is important because it points to a possible motive. Now, of course, motive is not an element of a crime when you're talking about the fact that he's been charged with murder in New York, but it definitely helps tell a story for a jury and for all of us. And as part of the investigation, understanding the why is incredibly, incredibly important. Now, authorities say that when they arrested Mangione in Pennsylvania, he had this handwritten manifesto, this writings in his possession. And it specifically addressed grievances with the U.S. healthcare system. Now, an independent journalist named Ken Klippenstein released this manifesto, which was later confirmed to be the actual writings of Mangione by law enforcement. They confirmed it. This is according to outlets like TMZ and Newsweek. Now, Klippenstein titled it Exclusive Luigi's Manifesto with the subheadline, Read the Manifesto the Media Refused to Publish. Now, Klippenstein says in the post that this is the real one, not the forgery circulating online. Now, to be clear, there are parts of this handwritten manifesto that are ineligible. They're kind of hard to make out. This is according to Klippenstein. But we want to go through this document, and it says the following. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife or traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is these, and then a word is kind of indecipherable there, have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, examples Rosenthal more, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. So essentially, this could be interpreted as an admission. It could potentially be used against him at trial. We actually dedicated a whole Sidebar episode with Professor of Law Jules Epstein going over all the evidence in this case, particularly these writings, their potential value and admissibility at trial. So I encourage everybody to check that out. But it is interesting to note that he says he acted alone, which was a central question we all had before his arrest. Questions about how just a seemingly random member of the public might have had information about Thompson, where he was going, when he was going at that exact moment. Yes, we knew there was an investors conference, but how exactly he knew he'd be walking on that street at that time. And also there was this question about, was it a contract killing? Was it a professional hit? He is saying he acted alone. So taking it as true, that's a definitely big insight that we wanted to have. By the way, considering the stories that we cover, we are very big here at Sidebar and Law&Crime with self-protection. And with that in mind, did you know that apparently just home title fraud is rampant right now? Yeah, so I met with the people over at Home Title Lock. They're our amazing partner and sponsor. They freaked me out. This is an example of a fraudulent quitclaim deed. It got filled out with my information, a forged signature, fake notary seal. Not only could my property just get transferred behind my back, but the scammers, they go after the equity. They take out loans using your home as collateral, and they do all this, they disappear, they leave you with a legal and financial nightmare. But that is where Home Title Lock comes in to give you peace of mind, especially with their triple lock protection, because that gets you 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and restoration services at no out-of-pocket cost to you. So to protect your home, go to HometitleLock.com/sidebar. Use promo code Sidebar. You'll get a 30-day free trial of their triple lock protection and a free title history report to make sure you aren't already a victim. The New York Times reports that a spiral notebook, which was what he seemed to reference, was also found, and it included a to-do list. Now, CNN says the writing inside the notebook referred to the possibility of using a bomb to presumably kill Thompson. But the writer, again, presuming this is Mangione, reportedly decided against it because it could, quote, kill innocents. And CNN also reports that the writer mused that it couldn't get any better than to, quote, kill the CEO at his own bean counting conference, seemingly in reference to the fact that Thompson was on his way to the company's annual investors conference when he was killed. By the way, talking bombs, it's being reported that there is one section there, this is being reported by CNN, where he talks about Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. Now, that might not be entirely surprising because according to his social media activity, more specifically this Goodreads account that has been reportedly linked to him, which has since been made private, it reportedly revealed that he had recently read and rated a manifesto written by Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, titled Industrial Society and Its Future. In that review, he praises the manifesto, saying, clearly written by a mathematics prodigy, it's simply impossible to ignore how prescient many of his predictions about modern society turned out. There's also this internal police report that was obtained by the New York Times that also gives us a little more insight into this as well, because according to the Times, Mangione appeared to view the targeted killing of the company's highest-ranking representative as a symbolic takedown and a direct challenge to its alleged corruption and power games, and that he vows himself as a hero of sorts who has finally decided to act upon such injustices. And I want you to keep all this in mind. Why? Because Mangione faced a Pennsylvania judge at the Blair County Courthouse on Tuesday. And as he was taken out of a police car to be led inside the courthouse, he turns to reporters and appears to shout, "This is completely unjust and an insult to the intelligence of the American people."
And it's completely out of touch, and it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Not really sure what that was in reference to, but you know what's also weird? Cameras weren't allowed inside the courthouse, but our very own Sierra Gillespie was there. And she told us yesterday during her live hit that when she was in that courtroom, Mangione seemed to want to say something in open court, or was trying to say something, but was shot down by his lawyer. And speaking of that, by the way, during that quick hearing, it was revealed that Mangione plans to challenge the extradition from Pennsylvania to New York, where he is going to be facing a second-degree murder charge as well as weapon possession and forgery charges. Thomas Dickey, Mangione's attorney, says he wants a hearing on the extradition issue, and the judge ordered both sides to work on this, to work on some motions. There's also going to be an effort, I believe, by the New York Governor, Kathy Hochul, to file the appropriate paperwork so that Mangione can be extradited back to New York. Dickey actually spoke on Good Morning America on Wednesday morning and said, "I have not been made aware of any evidence that links the gun that was found on his person to the crime. So these are things that we're looking to see." The problem is that CNN reported later on in the day after his GMA appearance that law enforcement officials say fingerprints from the crime scene are now a positive match to Mangione. If that is true, that is a major piece of evidence in this case, because as CNN notes, this is the first big forensic link between Mangione and the shooting. Now, before this happened, when questioned by reporters outside of the courthouse yesterday, Dickey reminded everyone that Mangione, like every other defendant, is innocent until proven guilty.
If you're an American, you believe in the American criminal justice system, you have to presume him to be innocent. And none of us would want anything other than that if that were us in those shoes. And so I'm glad he has some support.
Mr. Dickey, you just said a moment ago that that's what lawyers do when telling their clients to be quiet. What did you mean by that?
Well, no, I mean, because I'm going to do all the talking. You know, it's you have the right to remain silent, and I believe in that right. We did not waive extradition. We're contesting extradition. We're going to fight this along the rules and with the constitutional protections that my client has, and that's what we're going to do.
So for now, Mangione was denied bail. He's going to be staying in a Pennsylvania jail, and his attorney said he is pleading not guilty to the forgery and gun charges that he faces in Pennsylvania, and that he doesn't have enough information about the charges in New York to comment. But Mangione, who grew up in Baltimore, was valedictorian at his elite high school. He attended the University of Pennsylvania for both bachelor's and master's degrees. He has been described by people who knew him as someone who was incredibly smart and kind. Pretty much everyone who has spoken to the media so far about his arrest has said that they were shocked that this came out of nowhere, that they never could imagine Mangione could do something so horrific and drastic. In fact, one of his former roommates echoed those same feelings when we spoke with him on Tuesday. R.J. Martin. He started this small co-living space in Hawaii during COVID and says that Mangione applied to be a member.
He never once mentioned guns or violence. He wasn't even into MMA, wasn't really a big watcher of sports even. From all I believe he had no prior knowledge in that field. And I think what makes this really hard is that, you know, he was one of the smartest, one of the most compassionate, one of the most present people I knew, such a great listener, had natural, leadership by leading by example, and because people knew he was genuine. And I think part of what's so heartbreaking is knowing the potential he had, and to know that, now that's lost. He really had everything going for him. People loved him. He had a great, well-paying job. He was one of those people that I think we would look towards to help make and affect change in the right direction to help others. So I think that's part of what makes this so heartbreaking and so difficult to process. He really was among the best and the brightest that we have in his generation.
We asked Martin about this alleged back injury that Mangione was reportedly dealing with that caused him a lot of pain. In fact, Mangione had previously posted a photo of this spinal x-ray on his social media, but we weren't able to verify if that's actually Mangione's x-ray. But his friends said that he had become withdrawn in recent months. And if we're talking about him allegedly killing a health insurance CEO, talking about a surgery, something to think about.
My understanding is it was either an injury or some sort of pre-existing condition that he'd had before he moved to Hawaii. and that his spine had a misalignment, like forward and back. And I think he'd showed me the x-rays of that too. So his nervous cord was being pressed, and I believe his discs. It was one of those interesting injuries where, one day he could perhaps be athletic and do something, and then the next day just immobile and stuck in bed. Which, thank God he had healthy days, right? After we spoke about the surgery and his recovery via text, I followed up, I think it was like March, April, May, each month, just a text message checking in saying, hey bro, how you doing? What's going on? And didn't hear from him. So the last, communication that I had from him was this spring, excuse me. And I didn't take it as odd that he wasn't following up. I just assumed maybe he had permanently moved back to the East Coast. Maybe he'd started a new job. I just knew that when we were back in the same location, the same sphere, we'd meet up, our friendship, we'd go to the park and do a workout, or, do something fun we enjoyed doing together, when he was back on Oahu.
Again, trying to get some understanding of Mangione's background, and if these allegations are true, his motivations. Now, the attorneys in Mangione's Pennsylvania case, they were given deadlines to file their paperwork for the extradition hearing. We're going to keep an eye on anything as it develops. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.